maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you came to be an artist.
Well, my family immigrated to this country when I was 11 years old, and we moved to Santa Rosa, California, where I went to school, middle school actually, high school, and then I went to Santa Rosa Junior College, where I studied for a little bit.
Santa Rosa Community College.
Santa Rosa Junior Community College.
Right.
Because
in Northern California, right.
Well, as an undocumented student, it was questionable whether we would be able to get into university and how we would pay for it. That was also a question. We don't qualify for financial aid. So, but I applied to art school because I really like drawing and painting, and I was able to get into a few universities, and one of them was Pratt Institute in Brooklyn and in Manhattan, and I came to school over here in 2011. After I studied there and graduated in 2013 with my BFA in painting, I was able to apply for grad school, and I applied to a few, and I went to Yale University, where I got my master's degree in painting and printmaking in 2015.
Right. So tell me a little bit about the type of art you like to do. What do you do?
Mostly social commentary. I'm really into German Expressionism, Goya, obviously some sections of Picasso, also the Mexicans, Siqueiros and Orozco. I really just down near that history of political cartooning and social commentary, drawing and paint. Drawing is really a big foundation for me.
So how do you feel? Social commentary is your game, you know, art is the name of the game, and social commentary is what the content is. So tell us, have you been inspired by events of the last year? This divisive election here in American history?
Yeah,
most divisive
been.
Yeah, great.
There's no way not to be. If you feel emotion about something, then there's no way to not be connected to it. And that's kind of where I find it. It's who you are as a person. Who I am is impacted by the political situation, and who I am has been formed by that political situation. Not just the one right now, but the one for the last almost 20 years or 30 years in this country. So I think that political and social commentary has to come from a place of the self. And for me, it comes from maybe my idea of belonging and our belonging. What does citizenship mean in this country? And how does the self play a role in that? I'm undocumented. You know, how do I balance out? Because I'm both. I fully belong from this country now. I believe in law and I believe in following the rules. But then there's the other side of me that because I came here in a certain way, is undocumented, and there's not really a way out of it. So it's a conflict, and I think that social commentary has to do a lot with kind of examining the conflicts of people's ideology and how we vote and what we do to others.
Well, what did you feel when you heard these statements? I mean, I was shocked and depressed. I mean, for a long time, it sent me packing, you know, and reeling when you know, Donald Trump got on television and repeatedly referred to you know, people of Mexican heritage in America as criminals and rapists and the worst kind of language, inflammatory language, when, you know, there obviously is some tensions in society. To fan the flames of that seemed to be the most highly irresponsible thing that would prevent a person from being president, to disqualify and make illegitimate. And it has made him illegitimate, but yet he won.
Yeah, well, you say attacking groups of people based on who they are, what they do in life, women, whether they're gay, whether they're Mexican, whether they're Muslim.
Right, he had a whole list. I mean, we could go down the whole list. I mean, I was focusing on one thing.
Particularly in the subject of Mexicans, I've been in parties where people make jokes about Mexicans. I think that this country is ultimately very racist and very biased against Mexicans. And he just played with the fire. He just gave it a lot more momentum, and we don't want a president who does that, who starts to select and marginalize people and makes fun of them on TV and uses them. He really used us, not me, but this idea of us, a stereotype, to win his election. But we gave him the weapon for it. This country needs to deal with itself. We have a lot of things that we haven't dealt with. So it's not like he made it up. Racism, I have experienced it. Many people experience it all the time. I'm sure you experience some because you're white.
Right, but more experience. I've experienced it because I have an Italian last name.
Oh, sí, Italiano.
Yeah, Italiano, and you know, it's strange to me that I go into parts of America. You know, you live in New York, and every 1 out of 5 people has an Italian last name, or
everybody's pretty mixed. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
you go off And what do you eat? You know, like you can eat tomatoes. You know, right?
Yeah, no.
The weird little things that people say where they don't think they're being racist, but if they were in the shoes of the person they were saying it to.
Well, to me, they stand, people that I respect, and they're like, oh, it must have been so hard to go to Yale. Oh, you are incredible. It's like, no, you're because I know,
see.
I understand I'm incredible because I went to Yale and I went to these schools and I've done all these things. Yes, but the fact that you would say it's because you're Mexican, I don't.
You must have overcome so much.
I mean, I know that
you must have worked so hard.
Paying for an education, but there's just the idea that there is such thing as racism, and it comes from neoliberals' policies and in the way that we talk. Trump just brought it up, but there has been lack of reform.
Well, neoliberal isn't that Hillary Clinton?
I mean, I don't know. Who came up with all the language? But I know a lot of people who say we care for you, we care for immigrant communities. But are they going to really stand up for them when it comes to the realness of it? Are we going to all stand up and have immigration reform happen? And I'm not saying that because we have to kind of fix our laws, but I'm saying that because we're creating a community of people, their children and maybe even their grandchildren now, who have grown up feeling the hostility. I mean, the racism towards the Italians was from a long time ago, and it's still seen. You still see it through.
You'd be surprised, considering Italians have made it. They were governor, all these, every role, one day a president, even maybe. I don't know.
So what I'm saying is that we're creating a culture.
But it doesn't matter. Just like I thought a black president might make a difference, and it didn't really make a difference. It made things worse in a way.
Well, it just made people stand more on the side of they want this country to stay white, but this country was Native American. I belong here. I have some indigenous blood, so we have a very corrupted history. This country, who writes the history books, we have really fought on the side of whiteness in order to build this wealth. And I think we're at the end of colonialism, at the end of all of these struggles to beyond colonialism, but to control groups of people and countries so that we can benefit from them. And now these people in these countries, we're all much more together because of transportation, because of technology. And it's like now it's kind of the point where we sort of mixing, right? And how does the people who consider themselves world power maintain control?
All right. So we're going to go with the video right now, okay? And so that's great. Maria de Los Angeles. Well, let's talk about your art, because I love hearing about your politics. But let's look at the art and see how you translate that into a visual form.
Yeah, my friend Jordan Perez she's a student at Pratt Institute for Film. She did a short video on me that we're going to see, and it shows my work and a little bit of an interview and a performance piece where we went through the Trump Tower wearing pro-immigration garments that I make.
Yeah. All right, let's.
Well, I really, really love being an artist here in New York. And now that I have graduated with my master's degree from Yale University and I am teaching, I have given it a lot of thought to what does it mean to shape who we are. And I think that I am shaping who I am by pursuing this career, which is probably one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. I could never imagine being here as a child. It was just really fantastic. I didn't really know what to expect when I moved to New York as a student. To attend Pratt Institute was this big deal for me, coming from California, and it became very much a growing experience for me, because as an undergrad I was having a little bit of difficulty making work that related to my experience, and that's something that I tell my students now that I am teaching. It's who you are is a very important part to what kind of work you're going to make, and so the process of studying is really just figuring out what is that one thing that you feel deeply about. There are a lot of things one can change about who we are, but for me, the one thing I have been able to change, and achieving a great education was one of my main purposes. And now that I have finished it and I have gone to a school that I would have never expected to go to, I feel that I have achieved something quite wonderful for myself, and I get to be an artist in New York like everybody else that I know, and I get to be that person. But there is one problem, is that me coming to the United States, the way I was brought here, has put me in a situation where I cannot change my legal status. And for the last 17 years of my life, I've grown up under a category that has become a type of culture. I have grown up undocumented, with everything that you can think of about the restrictions that I've been through, and that many people, about 11 million of us, have gone through. So when you talk about, or when people talk about illegal immigrants being criminals, being all these negative things, we have to kind of stop and think. Maybe those people work where we live. Maybe they serve our food. Maybe they're CEOs of a company. Or maybe they teach our kids. If we are really moving forward and progressive, I think things need to be changed, because what we have created here is an oppressive system. 11 million of us cannot vote. So it's just perpetrating a type of oppression that is going to be here even when we're gone. So why not fix it? Why not get people out of that situation? The last thing that I want in my life to be achieved is not something that I can make happen. It's something that happens through voting, through reforms, and through an election. I want to believe in democracy as much as many other people, but at some point it needs to change, because I mean, I've waited only 17 years, but there are people here who have waited 30 or 40 or have grown old, being seen as less than a person. So that becomes someone's life. We're talking about a decade, 20 years, 30 years of a whole group of people, of their actual lives. We're no longer talking just about a number or a legalization system. We're talking about the fact that we are making people live their lives as criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you talk about protesting, you're also talking about being privileged enough that you have the money to bail yourself out, but also that it won't affect you for everything. And that's what we forget about. So everybody who actually has the privilege to go out and show their face in the protest and be part of it needs to do it. Mm-hmm. Because there are a lot of people who, because of their visas, their legal status, or they physically can't because of their bodies, maybe they can't.
Are you going down Sunday?
I am not going, but our group, We Make America, which is an artist group based here, well, it's all over the country, but it's based here in New York. They're going. We have made props and all kinds of wonderful things for it, and they're going to go to the DC, some of us, and the other group is going to be here in New York City.
What do you think could be achieved by this?
I think it sends the voice to the world. It sends a voice to all of the governments of the world and to all of the people that it is that we're actually a real threat. If there is no physical presence, that's why I like being an artist. You bring things to the world. You want to manifest and be out there, be visual. If we don't do that, then it's going to look like we're okay with it. Mm-hmm.
So tell me, okay, and I'm glad you're saying that. You know, I think it's really important that you're taking the state. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, you know, and to come right out there and come out of the closet, so to speak, and say that.
Well, Obama gave us that option because of the deferred action after Dream Act didn't happen. And during Dream Act, there were a lot of students, a lot of people who came out.
The Dream Act. What's the Dream Act?
Was what was going to give us a way to become citizens. And it was mostly geared towards people who were brought here by their parents, who were doing well, who are very educated, or just kind of doing very good in life. But it didn't happen. It was voted down. I believe it's in 2012 maybe. I was at Pratt at the time. I remember being really devastated. And then Obama did defer action for childhood arrivals, which was an executive order and is still an executive order. Gives us work permits, and we can apply if we have an invitation to go abroad. Right.
So is it for sure that Trump, we don't know what Trump's going to do. Is he going to undo these things?
That he would undo a while ago, right? That he was going to undo executive orders. And if he wanted to send a message to the immigrant community or to his fellow followers, he could just undo defer action. But that's not the only thing that is under threat. You know, we have health care, we have women's rights, Planned Parenthood, because of Pence, gay rights. I mean, we are really everything that we think America is as a progressive society. It has been digged on a little bit at a time, right? Things have been trying to be funded.
They've been chipping at it.
Even before him. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that things have been bad for a long time. Right. For both sides, for the Democrats and for the Republicans, and also for us. We don't have a group yet, but for everybody who's undocumented, which either we follow Democrat or we follow Republican. Not everybody who immigrates here is a liberal.
Right. I see. So some people who immigrate here actually join up, and so we say, in my community, pulling up the ladder.
Yeah, I mean,
you get in, you get okay, and then you pull up the ladder for everybody else. So
well, that's why, because then you're part of the group, and if you're part of the group and it's really special, then you don't want them, right? Because then you have less for yourself.
Right.
And we saw some people who voted because there were culture here to hate people who are immigrants, or they're also religious. It's not just one group of people who are super liberal. If we were really liberal as a community, and we were really pro-rights, and we would be all of us out there on the streets right now. I mean, I'm waiting for the immigrant community.
I don't know why we're not. I mean,
and for the white community, and for all the communities. If we don't come together cohesively, then we are going to be in trouble. Also because some people have privilege to protest, some don't. And then we're talking also about equity. Some people have equity. A lot of people are going to D.C. and they have the equity and the money to travel to D.C. to put themselves out.
We say privilege sometimes.
And privilege.
The privilege to protest.
So not everybody can do that. That's why if you have the means and you can do it, think about it and maybe go. Or maybe go to the one here. You don't have to go far.
Let's talk about art for a while and how art relates to this. I'm very interested. We were talking about last week at the gallery and this ongoing show on the tactical stream, Dump Trump, which is going on at the TBG Gallery, 619 East 9th Street. And of course, this Thursday, we're going to do, Teresa Burns, who's been on the show, is going to do a very strong action, a very strong performance art piece to try and express, these feelings we've been discussing right now. And so what role does art have? I mean, is art a weapon in the battle? Is art a way of just keeping track of the story? Can it change things, or is it just show the picture of things? I mean, what do you think about it?
I think art is really powerful, and when we talk about art, we're also talking about all the arts. We're talking about film, performance, everything, right? And everything that is in the world when it comes to a commercial, to a movie, to a painting, to a poster somewhere, it all comes from art, right?
Yeah.
And the idea that we can do that, we have social media now, which everything can be distributed, so anybody can make any image, any kind of message, and send it out into the world. For me, I think that being in the gallery system and doing shows is really important, but I also think that it's only a certain group of people that go to those galleries and see those shows and are in those conversations. I think we really are responsible is to reach farther, reach out of the art world.
How can artists do that?
Well, we have the means and we have the tools, and we have to actually physically maybe do organized workshops, maybe work with communities if they need any kind of advertisement, or activist groups. I think that we're being really privileged by just kind of sitting among ourselves and being like, yes, I have the torch of freedom. Well, I like that. I have the torch of freedom. I love that. But it has to go beyond. So that's why our group, what we created, called We Make America, we're participating in the Women's March, but also the question of organizing forums to educate people on different subjects, to participate in other kinds of actions that activist groups are going to do. And for me, I feel there has been a big distance between my immigrant background growing up in a certain neighborhood with certain people, and this art world that I'm now part of. Walking into the museums, being in Chelsea, doing all these things. There's a huge space between those two things.
Well, art has a power to create public opinion. It can influence public opinion.
Well, that's the thing, but that has to be brought out, not just among the galleries, but brought out back into the world. And we have the platform.
Is that like doing something like Banksy and like painting stuff on walls?
No, but even beyond that, where you would reach people that wouldn't necessarily be reached, that maybe are not. I mean, art lovers are all over, but not everybody has the same level of equity to access to art. And so for me, that's where I'm headed. It's like, how can I not remove myself from the world that I'm part of, which is the immigrant struggle, and be part of it and somehow help.
And wind up in the New York elitist art community and very rarefied, and it's like a little bubble, or everybody's nice and liberal, not necessarily doing anything.
Well, but that's the thing, that's why we're in trouble now. Because we have been acting that way, very privileged, and we have excluded people, and that has to do maybe not because of the artists themselves, but with the way the market works, right? It becomes precious and privileged.
Isn't New York is sort of about the art market? Art is about the market. Is there a way of separating the market? And the need for an artist, because I've never met an artist with money. A few claim it, but few ever really achieve it.
And so then why not use our skills? Why not use the fact that you can make a film, or you can make any kind of thing, or painting, or share your skills with people who are not just gonna be in the art market and share it with the rest of the world.
Like bring it out and do like mass art or yeah.
I mean,
something like the different theater groups we have in New York City.
Yeah, Pratt and Puppet. I mean, they have a lot of things,
right,
and I know people like home.
Theater
like,
for New City, Living Theater is a very good example of that.
And in California, we have the Imaginist Theater in Santa Rosa, California, and they do free community performances, and they do political work, and so just I think that we all have to sort of. A lot of people have been doing work for a long time. I'm not going to say that there hasn't been no work, but it's time for us to become even more strong and share information and use art to aid the sharing of information. Because we have such small ability to focus, so maybe using... Well,
so little is known. I think what this election taught us, if anything, is just how many people in America really don't know the score and don't know what's going on. I mean, they see maybe their own little lives, but they don't really understand this part of a bigger picture.
Well, that's level because our education system is in big trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we want to lead the world and we want to do all these things and we have a really terrible education system. I mean, how can we lead the world if we're not educating our own people?
That's true.
And if you want an education, you have to really struggle. So.
Well, Ms. DeVos says she's going to educate everybody in private Christian schools.
Here we go again. I mean, if this country was really founded for freedom of religion and the freedom to live your lives and freedom of this and that, how can in such a short lifetime, this country hasn't been around for so long, and it has always been not what it pretends to be, but we can't turn...
Well, let me say this,
we can't contradict ourselves, can we?
America has never been great. You know, when they say make America great again, taking land from the Indians, slavery... I
mean, Indians are still marginalized.
Segregation, right? Where's the greatness? It's a long way to go.
I got in trouble. I was in Connecticut, and I was at a party, and we drove by a reservation, and I saw it, and we were at this very fancy people's house, and I said, I heard that there's a land dispute with Native Americans here, and they were like, oh, how dare you talk about this? This is not your country. You can't have this conversation with us. Don't bring it up. So I'm just saying that we have been pretending. There are struggles everywhere with all kinds of indigenous people.
You were breaking the frame there.
I was somehow not.
And that way is a position of art is like, you know, if you look at people have this frame they live in with their own values and they don't like to go outside that frame, maybe we can, and you know, and one of the fears is that folks coming from Mexico, women, gays and lesbians, others are sort of imposing a new framework for people to run their lives by, and it's sort of upsetting their values, and maybe that's what has to be done, is that we have to get through the pain of it and actually change the framework.
Well, because the framework's never been white Puritan, right? Well, it has been, right? It started like that. But these countries are so diverse. It's much more
morality,
diverse.
Based on morality and all our laws. But that's sort of a part of democracy, is that everybody has to be moral.
But that's a contradiction, because if we were really truly moral, we wouldn't be shooting people in the streets.
It's about a hypocrisy, isn't it?
Like, for no reason.
A bitter, bitter hypocrisy, a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, so anyway, but also art brings beauty. And, you know, it's a lot of draining energy and a lot of feeling in the world right now that is kind of dark. So even for me to make my work, it makes me happier, it makes me a better person. But I think art can bring beauty as well into the world and maybe help us deal with it, right?
Yes, I agree.
You know, I'm like 28 years old. I'm not quite sure of everything that I think, and maybe
you're doing
I'm
pretty
wrong,
good.
But
it's okay.
I am willing to be wrong, and I'm willing to speak my mind.
All right.
So,
Maria de Los Angeles, thank you very much for joining us. We have half a minute. If you want to add anything, again, I want to urge folks to come down to TBG Gallery this Thursday at 6 o'clock, 619 East 9th Street for Teresa Burns and some other very interesting performance art that's going to be going on. And I hope everybody's also going down over the weekend to the marches and the protests that are happening Saturday, Friday, and Saturday. And anything you'd like to add?
If people are around tomorrow night at Y Box on Broome Street, there will be a panel discussion. I'm going to show right now at Y Box as well.
Okay.
And then on Saturday night, if people don't go to the march in D.C., they can come and come to the closing reception for the show that I'm in there at Y Box.
All right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.